video is inspired by a YouTuber that I follow called Canadian Prepper, and he did tacos in a bag, and I thought he does it for prepping purposes, but I thought, you know what, van life, Nomad, it's ideal. And I do freeze dry a lot of stuff, so I definitely want to take this opportunity to make it happen. How it's done, the process, and how it's going to take. So I'm going to make it. I'm going to rehydrate some, and you can see what it's all about. All right, so let's dive into this.
Don't play with it, don't be decided.
Here's all what's going to go into our bag tacos. Now, I'm just going to start out by saying that I would always, when possible, use fresh everything because it's just better. But because of my time restraints, some things are fresher than others, and I'll go into that. So right here, I have my seasoned 90% beef, and then I did a pat down to get as much oil out of that and to get it as dry as possible. Then right here, I just did a basic bag of seasoned, it's Spanish rice. I have my seasoned taco mixture here for cheese. I did cut up onions, and I'm sure most people know this, but if you don't want to cry when you're doing your onions, pop them in the freezer for about 10 to 15 minutes and then cut them immediately so that you can save yourself some tears. These are canned, so I have corn here, that's canned corn, and then I have black beans, those are also canned. Another thing that was canned was my tomatoes, because we're just not in the season right now. I do grow things, but we're not in the season right now where I'm growing anything because we're in February and we're in the Northeast. So Pennsylvania, nobody's growing tomatoes right now unless you're doing it inside. And then also this is fresh. I did green peppers and orange peppers. So that's going to be our mixture. I did also dice up chicken. And I didn't make that either. I got that actually from Sam's Club because it's under $5. And to be quite honest, I don't even know if you can get a chicken for that price anymore. And they already have it cooked. So what we did was we cut it and broke it down, diced it down, and then I froze it. But I saved the pain of watching all of this transpire. So we're going to take this stuff and we're going to put this in the freeze dryer. And just for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to do a brief synopsis on the freeze dryer that we have and kind of what it does. But for more detailed stuff, you're going to be able to find videos all over YouTube on freeze dryers. Okay, so we have the medium system, right? So it's got just the 4 trays. Then from there, you have the pump, which requires oil. And that oil, as you can see, is clear. You could probably go, I think it's like 18 to 20 cycles. I can't remember offhand, but this would be cloudy in color. And then the system itself will also tell you it's time to change that oil. And that's pretty quick. You turn this, it drains out, and then you fill it in here. It's just that simple. This thing does get hot because it blows out hot air. So that's what the fan's for. If this thing gets too hot, there'll be an indication on there and it's going to say it's just too hot and your cycle is going to take longer. So you want to cool it down as best you can. So we always have that airflow going. Plus we have a ceiling fan in the kitchen. So let's open it up. So this is the chamber, and inside of here is where the ice and stuff will be. Under here, you'll see these are heat pads. So that'll heat it up later. Now, as far as the first thing it'll do, it's going to freeze everything. And then from there, what it's going to do after it's done that freezing cycle, it's going to then start to heat everything up. Now it heats everything, but simultaneously pulling out moisture out of all that food. That's where the whole freeze-dried process comes from, and that's called sublimation. And so from there, once it's done that, what it's going to do is that moisture is going to well, it gets, I guess it gets frozen in there, right? So that's what helps it in there. So it gets kind of like, this is vacuum packed. You can't open this without releasing this chamber. And when I do it later, you'll hear it. Like right now, it's released. And then when I go to close it, that means that no air is getting in there and it's pulling all the air out. And then what happens is we have a bucket here. And then once we're done with this cycle, we will drain it and it'll go into this bucket. And then I dump the bucket. So I think that pretty much solves that, right? This is here. We put this here because sometimes condensation happens. And as you see right now, there's a thin line around here. But once it switches over into dry mode, this line will be very thick. It's going to suck all that in. So we're going to go ahead and start it. I don't know how this is working out. We're going to start it. So it says cooling vacuum chamber. It says wait 15 minutes before loading. I'm not exactly sure what the purpose of that is. I know once you put stuff in there, it will start to change the temperature. So what it's doing is just trying to cool it down initially. I guess prepping itself to be a certain temperature before you put things in it. So that's this process. We'll go through it later and I'll put everything in and go from there. All right, so we got our trays in there. We got the beef and all that stuff, and we have everything in here. We're gonna close this up. And normally it's after 15 minutes, but I was washing dishes, so it's a little over 15, but it doesn't matter because again, let me open this back up. See, now you saw it before, so you see all of this, you see this frost in here? It's already started to freeze the chamber. So it's telling me now to load the trays and I need to close the drain valve. And that's this guy over here. So what that's doing is it's not going to let any air into the system. And so then when it goes to pull that moisture out, it'll be airtight. If I didn't have that closed, an alarm would go off and then it's going to tell me it's having a problem. So that's why that's important. And you'll need to, I'll do that with you too. I go to open it up, I have to release it and it's a loud noise releasing all that. So let's push the button here. We're going to continue. Okay, so now it just says it's freezing, and right now it's at 43 degrees Fahrenheit. And then it'll take a while to go down in temperature because your food that you put in here is not frozen. If I froze it, and I do that sometimes, but if it's not frozen, then it's gonna make the temperature in there warmer. But it'll continue to freeze this stuff, and then it'll be in the negative. Why did we go with a medium size? And I just want to be clear on that because with the medium and the small, you can use a regular conventional outlet. When you go with the large and the extra large, you need a whole designated outlet for that. Kind of like how you would for your dryer and things like your larger appliances. And we did not want to, we don't know anything about electrical, so we weren't trying to bring anything like that in to do that, but it needs anything above a medium size, it needs its own. As far as what you can't freeze dry, I can tell you right now, you cannot freeze dry oily and fatty things. So for example, you couldn't freeze dry peanut butter. Now if you had something that had like a peanut butter sauce or something, that's different. But let's say you end up just slather peanut butter on a tray and freeze dry it, it's not going to work out well because of the oils. Same thing with bacon. There's just oil in there it's not going to allow it to freeze dry correctly. So some things don't work well, and oil-based things do not work well with a freeze dryer. It will not work. It will not freeze dry your stuff properly so that you can get that storage, that shelf life out of it. All right, so we'll be back. I'll see you, and I probably, because I like to over freeze dry, it's probably gonna take me at least minimum 24 hours. I'm gonna go as far as to say maybe 30 35 to 40 hours I'm going to do this. So yeah, we'll be back. Okay, the freeze dryer has been done for quite some time. So I put together everything I'm going to use to make this happen. So we have our oxygen absorbers. These are 300 cc's. It's basically a matter of how much oxygen, you know, you would need to take out of a bag. Since these are smaller bags, I'm using 300 cc's, but I'll probably use 2 because I do overkill. And then we have our Mylar bags. You never want to go with anything under 5 mil because that's the thickness. So these are Wallaby. These are good quality. And I already labeled 1 bag, and that's today's date. And then we're going to use this big mixing bowl to mix everything together to then put in these bags and seal them up. Oh, I did not put the sealer on here. I forgot to add that in here because we have to seal this stuff up, but I'll show you later. Then I just have a mason jar there. So what I'm going to have is residue to rehydrate. I'm going to put in that and keep the oxygen out of it. Because just remember, when you're doing this, once you take it out of that freeze dryer, you got to work pretty fast. Because the air is the enemy. A lot of time to get all the moisture out of this stuff. So we don't want to have it in the air for too long because, you know, all of whatever moisture or humidity is there, it's going to start to little by little rehydrate that. So once I get this stuff out of the freeze dryer, I'm going to work pretty fast. And if you do wind up doing this, one huge recommendation, when you get oxygen absorbers, always make sure that they have this little circle in there. And what that means is that these are good. If they don't have this circle there, because when we do it, you'll find that once this is left out in the air and oxygen hits it, and the moisture hits it, it's going to wind up turning black. And that means that these would no longer be valid if I left them out. So that's why I work fast. Once I open these things up, it's on. We're going to go ahead and shut this thing down. I had a lot of other stuff I was doing, so I just kept adding more time to it. But as you can see, this thing has been going for a total of 44 hours and 44 minutes. And it's okay. It doesn't really do anything more to it. Once all the moisture is out, the moisture's out. But like I said, once I take it out of here, the clock is ticking. So then I have to kind of hustle to make things happen. So we're going to go ahead and zero this out, right? Oops, I'm adding time. We're going to take time away. It did overheat once. I had to open the door. And let's say if this was not done, if this wasn't done, I would have the option to add more time to it. So that's how when it goes down, if I'm not ready, I can just add more time. So I'm going to say we're not going to add more time, but if I needed to, all I'm going to do right now is we're going to go over here, and then this reminds me of like a pressure cooker. When I was younger, my mom used to use a pressure cooker, and that's what this is going to do. I'm going to release this valve, and you're going to hear it. Now that's what's going to allow me to open up this chamber, because otherwise this door is not going to open. So let's see. Well, here we go. So, oh, that beef is done. All right, let me stop this here so I can pull everything out and put it on the stove. All right, so I got everything out, and as you can see, it actually brings it shrinks in here. So all that moisture's out. I'm gonna show you the consistency of it. So we got our beef. So here's our beef. And I figured a good demonstration would be like corn. So that's corn. Okay. I'll do one more. It's corn dust at this point. So we got our peppers. We got our tomatoes. So I'm just going to kind of break these down a little bit. And if you can hear it, it's light and airy. Here's our black beans. Got our corn, onions, cheese. And this is our rice, which I'll have to break up a little bit more. But I'm going to put everything in a bowl so I can mix it up. So we're going to start doing that. tray out of the way. Yeah, this I'm definitely gonna have to break up. Alright, looks pretty mixed up to me. So I already labeled my first bag. I do have paper labels to put on here, but I just use a Sharpie. And then just gonna take handfuls of that. I do like these bags. It depends on what the purpose of what I'm freeze drying. But I like these. They're called gussets, and they just sit up, so it makes it 10 times easier. And it's gonna make more bags than I thought. So that's what I got in there thus far. It's about 2 here. So I think single serving, that's a good amount. So I'm gonna seal that up for now until I can get my oxygen absorbers in there. We gotta keep this moving. I'll do half of this. And then what I'll do is I'll shake it up again just to make sure that the smaller stuff doesn't just settle to the bottom. I normally like to label the bags. No, Fifi. Before I put stuff in there, because I'll have to show you what it looks like. You know, and the bags normally look just like this when I put them in there, but when I put an oxygen absorber in there and leave it in there for a while, you're gonna see this bag's gonna get skinnier and skinnier. It's gonna suck it all in. And that's how you know it's really working. So let's pause this and get this stuff done. We have a total of 6 pint-sized bags that I filled. So I'm just ripping this off. Now just keep an eye on this right here. And I'm not watching the timer, but just keep an eye on it. So I'm gonna sit that right here for now. And you'll start to see that change color, so I'm gonna work fast. This is, we're gonna wind up eating that. That's what I'm gonna rehydrate. So I'm just gonna put one in that mason jar, so that's ours. And then I'm putting 2 in here, just because again, I do overkill. If you're gonna try and keep this stuff for years, I wanna make sure it's good. So, remember that was kind of like a hot pink when we first started. This is why I work so fast. So out of that one, I was able to get it's changing colors big time. Okay, I got them all sealed. Well, except for one. I have one left over. Can you see the color on that? Remember, it started out as like this bright color. Matter of fact,
that's what they look like initially. But once you expose this to oxygen, it's pulling that out of the air, so it's pulling the oxygen out of the air. It doesn't pull moisture. That's a different one, but this one's oxygen. So that's how fast you have to work, because then after a while, it's only going to pull so much, and then that's it. It's done. It's dead. So that's why I have to work fast. So they're sealed. I have this is my sealer. So it's closed. It's not sealed. I'm doing that right now. So I put it on a temperature. Depends on the thickness of your Mylar bag is where you would adjust that. For me, it's normally around like 7.5, depending on the bag. So for these, that's what I'm doing. And it shuts itself off. And that puppy is sealed. But I like to do, again, overkill. I always make sure the top is sealed. I like to do it twice, just to be on the safe side, to make sure after all of this effort, it's done, that it's good. And then I'll make sure that's sealed. Okay, done. Put that to the side. Do another one. And then it has that little rip here, so when you want to open it, you're just going to rip it there. Now let's say I didn't eat everything and I had my sealer with me, this guy, it would still seal down here if you still wanted to keep it and keep oxygen out of it. I don't know, for some reason this one bag is not sealing. I don't know why. It's not closing properly. Alright, I got it. Try to work fast. Now, you know, if you're asking yourself, you know, how expensive these are, they're pricey. And I know, you know, I'll probably get comments that says, that's great, but I can't afford it. Well, this video is for two reasons. I'll be eating freeze-dried foods in my videos, so I figured I would do at least one demonstration to show you what that process is. That's really why I'm doing this. But the second reason is, you know, I don't know what everybody else did with their COVID money, but this went towards it. Our COVID money went towards that unit, and this came with it, with the freeze dryer. They also gave us bags, stuff like that. But that's what we did with it. So it really is the gift that keeps on giving. And at this point, this thing is just like, it's just black at this point. It's just, like I said. You got these, that's that pink, and that just means like it can't pull any more oxygen out of the air. It's done. That's why you always want to make sure that you have something with an indicator, because how would you know if they really work until you open something from years later and you're like, ooh, that's not good. Well, it's too late now. So that's my tacos in a bag. And I don't want to make this video too long, so what I'm going to do is we're going to get my husband. I'm going to rehydrate this. We got to get some like nacho chips or something. So we'll do that. I'll do the next video after this one. I will do that where we try it and rehydrate it. I'll rehydrate it with you, and we'll get my husband to try it. And that's about it. So thank you for watching. And what I will do is I will show you eventually what it looks like, because this is what it looks like now. It's kind of puffy. When these oxygen absorbers do their job, it's going to pull that out. So thanks for watching.